You're the Worst has won lots of TV's Critics Awards and now is now trying to compete at the Emmys for its final season on FXX. I'm Charlie Bright of Gold Derby with Kether Donohue, who competes for Best Supporting Actress in a Comedy, and is here to tell us what was the worst thing her character ever did on that show. Kether, please dish.
I mean, I think we could all agree. And if you don't agree, I'd be very curious to hear why. I think we could all agree that it was stabbing her husband. I did an interview recently where they're like, so what are some similarities and differences of you and Lindsay? I'm like, I just want to throw it out there right out of the gate. I've never stabbed anybody. I've never been married, so I never had an opportunity to stab my husband. But if I was married, I don't think I would have stabbed him. You know, a little poke, maybe. But it's funny because I think it was season 2. I distinctly remember I had to clear out my Google search history because I was dating someone. I was like, oh my God, if someone looks at my Google search history, I look like a psychopath. I was like, how to artificially inseminate yourself with a turkey baster, and I was like, because then this all Lindsay research. Mm-hmm. I think that's probably second in the running for the worst thing. So the stabbing and artificially inseminating herself with a turkey baster, top 2 worst things of Lindsay for sure.
And there is no shortage of things to choose from on that list.
No, absolutely not. I mean, we could go down the list for all the characters. Leaving your fiance on a cliff. I mean, the list. Really, we could be here for a very long time talking about everybody's bad choices.
So the show wrapped up a couple weeks ago. How satisfied were you with how Lindsay's arc concluded?
I was very satisfied with all the characters' arcs. I think for me what it was is I like how nothing was on the nose and nothing was so out of the blue unexpected that it's oh, I would have never guessed that. Do you know what I mean? I think it was a very realistic ending for each character. And I think something, because obviously throughout the 5 years, the show, I think a hallmark of the show is that Stephen Falk has taken risks and chances with different episodes, trying out new things. But I think a consistency throughout the 5 years is that the foundation of the show is, I think it takes traditional dynamics and flips it on its head with untraditional ways of doing traditional things, if that makes sense. So I feel with Gretchen and Jimmy, them still getting married, or them ending it the way they did, it's they're taking the traditional partnership but doing it their way. And same with Lindsay, it's she's going back to something familiar and safe, but now just in a better place in her life. And she's proved along the way some emotional growth. So I liked it. I think it was a nice, sweet ending for Lindsay, and she found love. Or realized she had it all along.
I mean, I think that was one of the more surprising things about that finale was seeing Lindsay get back together with Paul, because I think some people were definitely thinking that, they just weren't right for each other, but there was still something there.
Yeah. And I think, it's just an interesting thing to talk about in general of I've been thinking about this a lot in my real life too. It's you hear all the time, if someone's the right person for you. And lately I've become of the belief system that, not to say anyone can be the right person. Obviously you have more of a connection with certain people than others, but I feel at a certain point, relationships, it's a choice that takes work to make something work. Do you know what I mean? So it's someone could be the right person for you, but then if you encounter bumps in the road along the way, which everyone will, I feel like it's a cop-out to then say, oh, well, that person's not right for me. I thought they were. It's like, oh, just because you encountered some difficulty, all of a sudden they're not the right person. It's like, I think someone could be the right person. And then at a certain point, you as an individual need to decide if you're ready to make that work. So I think Lindsay just needed time on her own to discover who she was by herself and kind of get that out of her system. And then, you know, it's a choice, you know, and that's what Jimmy and Gretchen said. That's what I love. He's like, we are going to choose every day. Are you my person? It's a choice every day, you know, so.
And I will never forget the feeling of watching each of these episodes leading up to the finale, and just especially with those flash forwards going, oh God, what is going on here? Did you have the same reaction when you were reading the scripts for that final season?
Yeah, well, like I said, like a hallmark of the show is Steven taking these risks, you know, without out of the box storytelling. So every season, I'm always excited to see, which one this year is going to be like the depression episode, or which one is going to be like LCD sound system where it's from Gretchen's point of view watching another couple, you know, so like. Or one year it was Edgar's PTSD episode, you know. So this year when the flash forwards happen, I was like, oh yay! Like that's the cool thing happening this year. And it's cool that way because I feel like, ew, I have to burp. That's so gross. Okay, sorry. Unfortunately, we can't edit this, so but I burped. I think it's cool because as actors, we're kind of like the audience when we read the script, because Steven loves to keep us in suspense and he likes to keep the actors present. You know, he doesn't want us to be thinking ahead and knowing what's going to happen. So I'm always reading the scripts like a fan. Like I forget I'm on the show. I'm like, get out! They did that. I'm like, oh wait, I have to act this out next week. But yeah.
So, I mean, it's you bring up an interesting point. You know, you've been playing this character for 5 years. What's the feeling like after you've wrapped playing such a standout character for that amount of time?
You know, check into a mental hospital. Like, check into the psych ward. I mean, to be completely honest, I feel like I still haven't really processed the ending. Like, I think I'm still in denial a little bit. Like, I still haven't really, I took this really big social media detox, like kind of toward the end of the show. And I haven't been on, partially because social media gives me a lot of anxiety, but also because I think a big part of me is in such denial that it's over. Like, I'm like, I haven't quite wrapped my head around, like, because 5 years is a long fucking time, but it doesn't feel like 5 years. And I don't know. I mean, it's been the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I'm just glad I got to play Lindsay, and I'm going to miss Lindsay. Sorry. I feel like what was the question?
No, I mean, just, you know, leaving that character and all the experiences after all that time. It's a heavy thing to do.
It is. It's I don't really know what to, you know, it's like when you graduate high school or college, you're like, that's a chapter that's over and this is my yearbook. And like, you know what I mean? Like there's certain, you know, you do you know, I mean, it just, yeah, the finale event was incredible. And it was just weird because I was like, am I celebrating tonight or grieving tonight? Like what? It was a little bit of both. We were all celebrating 5 years of collaboration. And I was also sad the whole night because it was like, it's over. But I'm just grateful because, like, honestly, and I say this all the time, it's like, as an actor, you're lucky when you just have a fucking agent, when you get sent on an audition, getting cast in a pilot, let alone a pilot getting picked up, and then actually liking the people you were like. There's so many things that have to fall into place for something to work out, and to get to have all that for 5 years is astonishingly amazing and not something I will ever, ever, ever take for granted. And I like, you know, I would only be so lucky if anything like that happens again. So.
Well, actually, I think one of the standout scenes from this season involved your character, involved Lindsay and Gretchen on doing a role play of Gretchen calling her mother.
Yeah.
That was. Were you able to keep a straight?
Charles, what are you talking about?
Were you able to keep a straight face while playing that scene?
No. And even like we were all cracking up, but also it's just funny because again, like after 5 years, we all know each other in and like Steven and I, we know each other in and fucking out. So like part of the voice that I did, so I have these like 2 alter ego characters outside of work that I do. Like I have a woman who calls to make restaurant reservations or negotiates cars for me. And I name her Phyllis Deegan and she kind of talks like this. So like, I was like, Steven, oh my God, I feel like Phyllis Deegan would be perfect for the mom. But I was like, or should I do Miss McGoldrick? Like I have this teacher that like talked like this that I was like, which voice should I do? And it was just fun because like, it was already a character voice that I've been dying to like, I use it in my real life and I just like wanted to channel her somewhere. So it added another layer of humor between me and Aya because Aya knows that character that I do like in real life. Like I've used that character to make reservations for us. To like, you know what I mean? Like, I have to make a reservation now, you know, like she just sounds like you don't want to piss her off. You know what I mean? So like they'll make a reservation because it's Phyllis. But yeah, I was just so excited I could use that character on the show. And we, yeah, it was very hard to keep a straight face that day.
So, we were wondering, because we're an awards site, if you were to get nominated, you would have to submit an episode to the voting panel, and we were wondering what episode would you submit from this season?
So there was an episode that I was one of my favorite episodes of the entire series. Written by the very talented Marquita Robinson and directed by Ryan Case, female director. And it was one of my favorite episodes for Lindsay and Edgar because their journey, I mean, we've watched Lindsay and Edgar for 5 years, like having this really fascinating relationship that's kind of able to survive and sustain like, you know, judgment and sex and friends with benefits and, you know, all this kind of stuff, sidekicks and all that jazz. So I really loved the episode this year where they try to really date. And they realize it doesn't work out because I feel like that was one of my favorite episodes of the entire series, like I said, because I just think it was written with such poignancy and humor, just that classic Youre the Worst cocktail of the funny and the feels and sex. I just loved that episode. That episode was so fun to make. Like our director, Ryan Case, I'll never forget, she texted me in pre-production and she's like, hey, I want to well, first of all, she made me feel so safe with the sex scenes, which was awesome. But we were texting each other back and forth stick figures of different sex positions. She's like, I'm really excited to shoot the sex scene because she's like, we can get creative. She's like, what sex positions have you guys not done, you know, yet? And I'm like, oh, cool. Like this is a fun collaboration. So I was like, how about this position? It's a stick figure, you know, like this. So we went with the side. I'm like, Lindsay would definitely get fucked from the side and be like really bored, you know? So I just love that episode because it has sex, it has humor, but also between Lindsay and Edgar, they, at the end, I just think it's so sweet that they maturely, mutually agree that dating is not the best for either of them, but like with no hard feelings. And I just think like that's such growth for both of them. And that was really, really lovely to play out with Desmond, you know, because for 5 years we've been scene partners, and there's like a nice trust that goes along with that. And yeah, I love that episode so much for Lindsay.
Well, Kether, thank you very much, and good luck on this year's Emmys. Everybody hit the like button to subscribe to our Gold Derby channel and click on our interviews through our Emmy playlist. Thanks so much.
Thank you.